Mill Creek Church has its beginning with a land grant of 640 acres on the east side of Mill Creek. James Menezes II from Virginia was one of the first holding the Baptist faith to make a permanent settlement here. Mill Creek is the west boundary line of the historic Concord Church, separating Davidson County from Brentwood on the east side of the Concord Road corridor. It is a crossroad for many people's daily commute from Smyrna, Laverne, Murfreesboro to Brentwood and Nashville. It was the first site of major flooding during the 2010 Tennessee's flood. Yet this two-century structure continues to stand strong as a witness of the rich history, the stories of the families of the past, the prideful heritage of the community, and the resilience of the people that have made this city what it is today. The historic Concord Church, a Civil War Army campsite. As the thriving 1850s came to a close, Nashville and the prosperous agricultural communities in the south of Nashville and Nolensville area witnessed the beginning of the American Civil War. The Battle of Murfreesboro's Stone River started as a surprise attack by the Union Army on December 31, 1862, turned into one of the bloodiest, killing nearly 22,000 men. Well, before this significant battle took place, the Union had to travel from Nashville to Murfreesboro. And where did it stop? The historic Concord Church. Winter offensives were very rare because of the rainy season. The roads became a mess, and it was really hard on the men marching through mud with wagons and dragging canyons. Armies often stayed put, but to the Confederate Army's surprise, the Union Army launched an attack 2 days after Christmas on December 26th of 1862. Union Army General McCook made his camp at Concord Church, serving as his headquarters and hospital for the sick, with about approximately 8,000 men. It was very important and strategic for the troop movement progressing towards Murfreesboro. Before antebellum years, the area was a camp for the Native American Indians. Long before the 1860s, local tribes probably settled here temporarily, leaving bowheads and pottery as evidence of their stay. The story of the church begins with Baptist founders, direct descendants from European immigrants of the 19th century. Churches sought convenient locations by a creek, river, lake, or pond. Water was essential, and Mill Creek site was a prime location. The sanctuary was just one building. Congregations were composed of folks that lived at walking distance from the church. As the century rolled and the community began to populate, the church began to add annexes for their different needs. Post-Civil War life demanded many new changes. A need arose to teach orphans and poor children. This translated into more demanding Sunday school spaces. Before convention centers and malls, associations and community groups needed large areas to meet. Churches had the perfect space for gatherings. In June of 2005, El Shaddai Christian Church purchased the Concord Church building for a church plant, a non-denominational multinational church with more than 16 countries represented. As this new church began its life and involvement in the community, it soon learned of its history and its rich spiritual heritage. People would stop by and share their personal experience of their spiritual journey in this church, making their marriage vows and raising families for 3 and 4 generations. Stories of how several renowned churches in the community started here and outgrew the building, anecdotes of potlucks and summer picnics in the beautiful 4 acres natural settings, accounts of creekside water baptisms, and narratives of how the church bricks were made by hand with materials from the creek and horsehair. El Shaddai founders began to recollect history facts, conduct research on their architectural history value of the building, its rich cultural and spiritual significance, and began the process to determine if the church was a historic site. In 2016, the historic Concord Church obtained its eligibility as National Historic Site, both at city and state level. With that in hand, the church is in the process of acquiring the permits to rehabilitate the building. The New Millennium. This historic 4-acre site is planning a beautiful makeover. Charming as always, the historic Concord Church has plans for another 200 years. It is planning a facelift, a walking trail connecting the Nashville Greenway to the Brentwood Greenway, an arboretum, community gardens, a wildlife sanctuary, memory and healing gardens, and an adult playground. The Fellowship Hall will once again be a community center for educational conferences, talks, and classes. The master plan is divided in 4 main projects: the renovation of the building inside, an adult playground, a kiosk for community engagement for boomers, outdoor preservation, and landscaping. The historic Concord Church, as we see it, is still standing strong in its witness to welcome newcomers, tell them of the way we were so they too can continue the legacy towards the future. Join us being a part of the wonderful restoration. Come out and adopt Mill Creek and help us with its conservation. Plant a tree and watch it grow. Sponsor a garden. Share a clipping. Perhaps your family has a rose bush handed down from a family heirloom. Send a family pic to the historic blog. Mill Creek is the perfect backdrop for the historic Concord Church, a crossword that is thriving and growing community of the new millennium. Join us.